What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to Brain Power. This is episode 24. I'm your host, Bowen, and on today's episode, we have Justin and Kent from CoinCap joining the show to talk about everything that's been happening with CoinCap and their builder subnet over the last 8 months. You may remember, I hope you remember, they were actually the very first builder subnet to jump on Brain Power as a guest. So I will always be heavily appreciative. I will always appreciate that very much. These guys are awesome. It's really great to get their insights on all things happening within CoinCap specifically, but also Morpheus as an ecosystem and DAI at large. As always, if you enjoy Brain Power and would like to support the show, all that we ask is that you like this video or whatever platform it is you're consuming our content and consider sharing it with someone else who you think will enjoy it. If you really, really like Brain Power, consider staking to our builder subnet on the Morpheus builder dashboard. With that being said, and without further ado, here are Justin and Kent from CoinCap.
I'm trying to free your mind, but I can only show you the door. You're the one that has to walk through it.
You're listening to Brain Power.
All right, welcome back, everybody. This is episode 24 of Brain Power, and for the first time, we have a returning guest, a returning builder, and not just a returning builder, but actually the first builder that we ever had on the show. CoinCap is joining us. Justin and Kent, thank you for hopping back on.
Yeah, thanks for having us, Bowen. Excited to be back.
Glad to be back.
Of course. So last time we did a pretty big deep dive into CoinCap specifically and all of the things that you guys are working on, kind of the history of CoinCap as well as you guys on a personal level. We can definitely do a quick refresher on that, although I do recommend anyone listening to this go back. It's episode 6 of Brain Power, so it was about 8 months ago. But if you don't mind, can we do just like a quick refresh on what is CoinCap and like within the Morpheus ecosystem, what does it do?
Sure. Yeah, it's 8 months is like that's 8 years in crypto time, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly right.
So CoinCap is really at the most fundamental level. It's a site where you can access both real time and historical crypto data, all manner of crypto data related to markets and trading activity. It's both a front-facing website. You can visit us at coincap.io. It's an app. And then crucially, which I think plays an important role in what we're doing now, there's also an API, a very verbose and deep API you can connect to as well. In terms of our Morpheus involvement, we're a dedicated subnet. Really, we pretty early on decided to make it a very fundamental aspect of what we're doing, like namely building in the Morpheus ecosystem, because our own ethos and values align very much with the DAI stuff that the Morpheus system ecosystem at large is trying to do. So we can kind of get into some of the more detailed aspects of that, but in a nutshell, that's kind of what we're doing.
Awesome. Yeah. And just for everyone listening, they are one of the builders right now where you can actually stake more tokens to their builder subnet and receive a premium version of their product or service. In this case, well, it's kind of both actually in this case, but you can actually use more as a utility token to access CoinCap Pro. Can you dive into like over the last 8 months or so, Kent, like what's changed basically since the last time we talked? What have you guys been working on?
Great question. Appreciate you asking. So first and foremost, and I think that what excites me the most with all this is an MPC server. We've done a lot of back-end changes to make the overall experience better, more cost-effective for users, and just really improve the infrastructure and kind of that, the subtle things. But I think more than anything, the biggest change we've made is adding MPC server. I'm sorry, MCP. MPC is something different. MCP it really speaks to, I think, where so many things are headed right now. Like the Morpheus community generally seems to be kind of heading that direction as well. This is really an all-in bet for the agentic trends to continue. Really, this idea of the agentic world, and we released that over the summer after just really some detailed work around that, creating a really bespoke thing. The nature of MCP is it would have been easy to kind of just have AI do it or something. But we quickly learned that having a more precision built sort of tool would actually impart some deeper benefits for our users.
And so, do you guys think that? I guess can we do a quick overview on MCP, like from the perspective of somebody who's building an actual server? What does that mean in the context of you guys? And then, do you think that? And you kind of just touched on this, but do you think that pretty much all software as a service companies will become MCP servers or something adjacent to that?
Yeah, so on your first point, MCP is essentially just a protocol for giving AI agents and LLMs access to data that a like web app or a mobile app would grab through a traditional API, right? So um, in our case, all of the API endpoints that we already have, we just translated them into what are called tools in the sort of MCP world, right? Um, and those tools are just described a little bit differently. They have sort of somewhat different descriptions, but essentially return all the same data. Just they're just built so that an AI can understand what it's looking for and how to grab things easier than like a traditional API, right? The first chatbot that we ever built had was just running off of our traditional API, and we essentially had to write, a bunch of instructions for it on the front end that would say, hey, if a user asks for this thing or look for, this keyword, then you can make this API call. And it was very slow and very inaccurate. So essentially, like MCP really just sort of, smooths out all of those rough edges, basically. I think, yeah, I mean, I would think that most um, SaaS companies, most SaaS products would probably want to have an MCP server. I mean, the difference that we've seen in chatbots being able to and like agents being able to get our data and analyze it quickly and access it accurately has been, night and day between, an MCP server and just a traditional API. So, if you're doing anything with AI agents, LLMs, any kind of AI, MCP right now is the best option.
Who are the best clients or the people that you're kind of going after with this new stuff that you guys have built? Like, who's the ideal person that will be tapping into your MCP server?
Yeah, so person is an interesting word there. I think,
Or I guess agent, person who owns the agent.
yeah,
Yeah. Well, no, that's actually a good point that you make is
yep,
the lexicon about how we talk about these things is going to change pretty drastically because pretty soon when I and you and everyone else has their own super agent or self-representation agentically, it's not me you need to convince, it's my agent from a sales perspective.
exactly. Yep, that's a great point. So I think like anyone that's, building an AI agent that has any interest in crypto market data or pricing, would be the type of person to use like this MCP server. But really like the idea, I think, in the near future is that like people really aren't using it at all. It's agents that are actually like accessing it on their own based on like what their task is or what their prompt is. They're deciding what tools, servers, or other agents to interact with on the fly to basically like accomplish their task.
And
So
have you guys done research or is there research out there on I guess of the agents that people are starting to build that are doing things that would require crypto price feeds, which is pretty much everything. I mean, any agent that touches Web3 is going to need to touch a price feed at some point. Which, by the way, I tweeted earlier today. I was thinking about this that DAI is inherently DeFi because there is no other way to exchange value. DeFi is not inherently DAI. But regardless, have you guys done research or looked into like how do you become the data stream that is most effectively drawing in agents? Like what is it that they are looking for or people are tuning their agents or building them to look for that would say, okay, CoinCap is the best option for us? Or is it
As
too
near
early
as
for
we
that?
can tell right now, it's people really want reliability. They want a price feed that is is very detailed. It covers a lot of different assets and even different facets of that asset. Additionally, being able to dig in and maybe pull out, for example, like technical analysis indicators, TA is the really bread and butter for a lot of people making these decisions, and probably multiply that by 10 for bots that are really, that's going to be what's really driving their decisions, is say, hey, trading bot, please, make this purchase if there's a, moving average crossover combined with, maybe rising MACD, or you can get pretty nuanced, similar to kind of what exists on maybe stock trading platforms in a centralized way, in a non-agentic format. But like, to really think about to answer your question about the research, like I feel like we're still super early on, and this is like where it gets really interesting. You can kind of see this actually in the dynamics of the market right now. Is like, it feels like the majority of liquidity is flowing into just, AI plays, pure AI plays. Hence, you see the Nasdaq, Nvidia, everything. It's just been soaring higher for a long time now. Whereas, crypto, not quite so much. And I feel like this narrative that we all expect, that like, hey, agents are going to, almost by definition, to your point, Bo, have to live on crypto rails because there's value exchange happening. People aren't quite aware of that yet, but if you look at what's happening right now, you just, I think, talked on your podcast about X402, which is a good example of like a
Yeah.
recent development that's like facilitating easier payments. I mean, Coinbase is adopting that, which is, or Coinbase developers, their technology is for Coinbase payments. That's a big deal. You also have better scalability now with layer twos, and you have one of the I think it's a 8004 EIP coming up. Like, really, this is going to actually remove a lot of the friction and barriers. Once that happens, it's going to be sort of, in my humble opinion, it's going to be like, oh my God, here we go. It's going to get interesting. So we are making a bet that there's going to be much more happening as a result of all that, even though things are maybe relatively quiet right now.
Yeah, well, that's actually something I was going to ask you guys was, as two guys who have been in crypto for quite a while and saw like the close to day one, and in some cases literally day one, of some of these other, I don't know what to call it, like metas or like things being built within DeFi. So for example, you guys were both there for the earlier days of Ethereum, and I believe Kent, or maybe both of you, were there kind of like the earliest days of Ethereum. And so when we compare something like a smart contract platform and what that roadmap and development looks like to DAI, I would say that like smart contracts are maybe, in inning 5 or 6 of development, where huge institutions are paying attention to it now. They maybe haven't quite adopted it yet, but it's pretty clear that that's the direction things are heading. It's more of a, how can we, not to steal the line from Solana, but how can we increase bandwidth and reduce latency on all of these networks so that we can have enough like throughput to scale? Where would you say DAI currently falls? Like, are we still in inning 1? Is this still like so early that we don't even really have consumer facing things to do yet?
I mean, I don't even think we're in inning 1 yet. I would say we're
Oh,
probably
interesting.
still just warming up for the game, right?
Okay.
Yeah, I think everything is very rudimentary right now, and we're really just getting started on the sort of possibilities for DAI applications, right? Like both like tools and then these sort of like use cases for it. I think there's a lot of low-hanging fruit that people like us and others are sort of testing out and trying, but yeah, I mean we're barely scratching the surface, I think.
The game hasn't started yet, says Justin. I love that. That's amazing. Kent, do you agree? Are you kind of in the same boat there?
So yeah, I definitely am kind of like feeling we're super early. Especially to your analogy about like maybe the sixth inning with smart contracts. We're definitely, I mean, yeah, that game has been underway for a while, and we've hit such an inflection point, I think, with stable coins, especially now with the Genius Act and the removal of some of these regulatory barriers. That legislation is already paying off in terms of facilitating more billions of stable coins coming onto crypto rails. incidentally, a lot of that liquidity, I think, will eventually wind up in one way or another in DAI, because hey, this is already on chain, these nice stable coins right here, and perfect as collateral for DeFi, but also for to be used in all manner of agentic contexts on chain. So it's when you think about that, okay, well maybe like your average person isn't literally using stable coins every day. However, the back end of finance is increasingly using it, and I think it probably won't be too much longer before people themselves are able to reap the benefits of stable coins. For example, doing a bank transfer or something like that. If you're buying
Mhm.
a house and you're sending a couple $100,000, that's just could be a huge pain in the ass. It's fraught with risk. You can get deceived in terms of where you're sending your money, and then that's a mess. So yeah, but meanwhile, DAI is just these tools are getting developed, so we're very early. But it's also interesting that AI itself is accelerating at a much faster curve. If you just look at how quickly things have adopted or have evolved since ChatGPT showed up, or you look at just like generative AI with Midjourney and stuff. It's like crazy. But
Yeah,
Bo, you're
yeah,
pretty close to the metal on all this. How do you feel in terms of all this?
yeah. So I I look at it two different ways. I look at it through the scope of the actual technology for DAI specifically. I look at it through the scope of the actual technology, and then through the scope of kind of the like meta and narrative around it, only because with Web3 stuff, you kind of need both. Like the tech needs to be really good, but also people need to care about it. Because if you can't get people to care about it, it's never going to get adopted. And um,
Mhm.
on on the technology side, I am more so like I'm in the kind of the camp that Justin is, where we are just seeing like the really early inklings of something that will be really amazing. And when it happens, I think it's going to happen so quickly that it's going to feel like, oh, we jumped from inning 1 to inning 3, because it's going to be a level of scaling that we're not used to, because we're not going to be relying on people to build the thing. It's going to actually be agents. So like the clock of productivity isn't like every 10 hours when the western world is awake and then the eastern world's awake. It's going to be just constant iteration. So I think that's going to move really quick. From a narrative perspective, I do not think we've had a catalyzing enough event yet for most people to realize why the data privacy in particular, but also like freedom to move, intelligence, and value is so important. But we're getting really close. I mean, things like
Mhm.
yesterday, I'm sure you guys saw the 1X Neo home bot. Did you dive into that at all? Like kind of their demonstration and all of those things?
I haven't yet. No.
I checked
Okay.
it out. It's a little bit like Uncanny Valley territory, isn't it? Like, whoa, this is
Yeah.
this is
Well, my
nuts.
first question is like, why does it need to look like a person? We want, like, I don't understand. I think so, because we have this weird, I'll get back to my main point, but because we have this weird obsession with making these AI companions look like people, there is going to be a social group of people who are basically like the freedom fighters for robots. Like that's going to be a social issue in our lifetime, and we could just
Mhm.
completely abstract it away if we stopped making them look like people, or at least like heavily extract it away. Um,
Yeah.
Besides the point though, if you look at their demo, so the videos, it's interesting, it's cool, but what it, and again, this is all alleged. I mean, obviously I don't have any inside info at 1X, but what they're saying it's going to be able to do next year versus what they flag as autonomous today in their video is like such a wide margin. So for example, in the video demonstration they do, somebody knocks on their door, it walks over to the door and opens the door for them. That was autonomous. The guy says, "Oh, my drink's empty." It walks over, takes it from him, and walks away. That was autonomous. But everything else that they demonstrate, so like watering plants, folding clothes, all that stuff, it's remotely controlled by someone remoting into the sensors and cameras through like what looks like an Oculus device with controllers. And they basically say, hey, when this first goes live, if you want to do something that's outside of the scope of what it can do autonomously, which is right now pretty much everything, we're going to actually have someone remote in and do that. Well, that means that you're having them remote into cameras and sensors and audio in your home
Yeah.
at any time. And like that is insane. And so I think that type of thing will be something will happen with either, and I don't mean necessarily with Neo Homebot. Like I don't want to call out 1x specifically because so far they haven't done anything wrong. But this type of thing will inevitably lead to a disaster that will hopefully like wake people up to this. Like, hey, maybe don't have this thing that some guy in a remote center, like call centers are going to become these. People are going to be controlling your AI bot in your house from, wherever, India or wherever it is they are. It's crazy.
It sounds like dystopian sci-fi from like, say 20 years ago, and here we are.
Yeah, but I think it's even worse because in this case, it's not even actually autonomous. I mean, I guess if it was autonomous, I don't know that that makes it better because ultimately, like, they're going to have access to all of this data and information about your personal life so far beyond what we're used to. And only something like this, in my opinion, will get most people to understand why it matters to own your own data. Or at least like be able to monetize it yourself, I mean, at the very bare minimum. But yeah, I just thought this thing was, the first of many, I'm sure, and pretty crazy.
Yeah, that is a little bit concerning for sure. It's always kind of a bummer, I think, that we need something sort of, terrible to happen for most people to realize the risks of these things, right? Like somebody to remote into somebody's like home robot in the middle of the night or whatever, right? Like
Yeah.
it's gonna take probably something like that, which is unfortunate, but we will, I think, yeah, eventually get to the point where people realize that, giving access to, data and, like this just sort of unfettered access to your personal life, right? In not only digitally, but like in the real world, has some serious consequences, right? So, I think,
Well, and to be clear, I'm not rooting for the horrible thing to happen. I
right.
just like time and time again, that's what we've seen. I mean, we see this even just look at something much less consequential. People just in trading, right, are so bad at assessing risk. I mean, it's why you see everyone on your timeline blow up their portfolio every time we see a mass liquidation event because like people are just like underestimate risk so bad. And I think that humanity as a whole, and I'm not even talking about in terms of like, oh, robots are going to destroy the world. I just mean in terms of what it means to let someone have your data like that. It's going to just really eventually like be eye-opening for people. We'll see, I guess. I mean, what else have you guys been seeing anything else recently or trying anything else that you've kind of found interesting or new just in the AI space in general?
Oh, what's interesting is yeah, Atlas, now you have the browser that OpenAI has. I haven't had a chance to really dig in, but I think it's like it's sort of emblematic of like how people another example of how people aren't quite used to like they're not ready for agents yet because this is just like okay kind of an intermediary step where it's like hey this browser is going to essentially watch everything you're doing online with the benefit of it's going to learn your workflow and it's like oh man I need to place an order on Amazon I got to buy a plane ticket this and that the agent is or the at least kind of the quasi agent in the browser is going to take care of all that which is really cool. I get the sense that people aren't quite ready for that yet. They're, they don't quite trust AI enough. And I can't blame people for not trusting AI to not screw up that. Like, how many times have you seen hallucinations, for example, with ChatGPT? The newest version, anecdotally, it seems to hallucinate a little bit more. I was asking it some questions about like audio production software last week, and it just completely and very convincingly made up a complete falsehood. And then I pressed it a little bit more, and are you sure? Like, yeah, because to me it sounded too good to be true. It turns out it was. And I said, "How did you come to this conclusion?" It's like essentially said, "Well, I kind of made it up."
Yeah, that it's
So
like that meme, the like I made it up meme. Yeah, exactly.
exactly, yeah, I made it up. So I personally would not trust like Atlas, for example, or your basic agent quite yet to do those kind of things because like okay, if I'm booking a plane ticket, to Tokyo, is it going to accidentally book a plane ticket, to Beijing or something? Or like
Hmm.
or maybe it's the sort of thing where you do trust it, but then trust but verify. Make sure that they got it right. And this is another example where I think the inherent transparency of DAI is such a step function improvement over the way things are done because at least if everything's transparent, you can see, okay, well, how is the code working? Anybody can really test it thoroughly, and it kind of makes for a different setup. That's actually kind of driving some of the ethos and functionality behind that EIP that's coming up around agents.
Yeah, no, that's a great point, and you're so right with the hallucinations. The one that I always think of is I use different agents, or the different models rather, for like image generation. Like when I'm making thumbnails and stuff, I use them to kind of help me put them together. And you know that scene from Napoleon Dynamite with Rex Kwon Do where he's like, grab my arm, other arm, my other arm. Like that is how I feel interacting with this sometimes. Is I'll be like, okay, do this picture in the theme of this picture. No, reverse it. No, that's not what I meant. I meant, and I'm like going back and forth with it over and over. And maybe it's just myself being a poor prompt engineer. But, well, and that's something that's interesting too, is even within the agentic world, learning how to interact with one is going to be such a skill set in itself. And that is actually something that scares me a little bit, because I know a lot of people are worried about, their jobs being automated and all of these things happening. And like, there will be some of that, I'm sure, but it's no different than when computers came out, like certain things got automated. But then it was about, okay, how can I use the computer as a tool to do this thing? The people who really master dealing with agents are going to be like, not like 10x developers, they're going to be like 10,000x producers in whatever it is that looks like. And that is like so weird to think about, because like the implications are just so big, and I don't even know that we can really like conceptualize what that looks like yet.
Yeah, I think what we're seeing right now is a sort of shift from somebody, or from an individual, a contributor being, hyper efficient at one or two things, to anyone being pretty efficient at like thousands of things or hundreds of things, right? I don't have to be an engineer, or I don't have to be a software developer to be able to build like a pretty decent simple web app, right? I don't need to really know anything of that. I don't need to be like, an experienced researcher to be able to do like deep research on topics that I know literally nothing about, right? So it's not me becoming more efficient at the thing that I'm already an expert at. It's me becoming pretty efficient at all of these things that I never really thought I would be able to do on my own, right? So again, that is somewhat scary, especially as somebody that has a background in graphic design, seeing looking at Figma, being able to like throw wireframes together, but based on like a 5 sentence prompt or whatever. Yeah, it's a little bit scary, but it also lets me focus on the creative stuff, and or the things that sort of require my expertise and my attention, and a lot of the like other tasks, the other details, can be handled by an agent with still at this point some pretty significant oversight. But
Yeah, well, don't worry, I'm cooked with podcasting too. I mean, like, for at one point I'll have like a co-host that's an agent, and then eventually it'll just be two agents talking to each other. It'll just be
you'll wake up one morning and your co-host
yeah, it just
Google
took the
already
show.
has that. Is it Notebook LLM, where you could just basically create a podcast for yourself, which is kind of funny.
Yeah.
It's like I actually was messing with my wife. We were just planning a trip somewhere, and I put in all this information, these links about it, so we could create an interesting, informative podcast. But then I made sure that it was like actually saying her name, and I just played it like it was a podcast. Hey, listen to this. But then they start talking about her,
Like to her. Oh yeah.
yeah. But it's so convincing. It sounds like a couple really, hey, laid back people doing a podcast. It's like, wow. And this is only after a couple of years of this shit. So it's
Oh
gonna
yeah.
get
It's going to get
insane.
insane. It's funny. My wife actually uses that feature too, only so she's in grad school currently, and she will use it to summarize like chapters of their readings and have them make short form podcasts about the chapters, so that after she reads it, she can go back and just listen to two people talk about it. But it's really a similar application though. And Yeah, I partially love it because like for stuff like that, I'll definitely use it. But then at the same time, I'm like, although I think I don't know if we talked about this last time you guys were on, but and this was not like an original thought I had. Someone else actually brought this up to me, but I do revert back to it sometimes. Is the idea that it will just become more novel to have something that's verifiably made by a person. And it's kind of similar to what we saw with auto manufacturing. I mean, back like in the, I don't know, early teens, 20s and beyond and earlier, or not really earlier, but earliest cars were made by people by hand. And then manufacturing and automation became so large that you could make a Honda Civic and it would, be an assembly line and no problem. But today, like a Rolls Royce is still made by hand and they cost $600,000 and it's extremely like luxurious and notable to have something made by hand. I think there will be parts of like communication and things that will still function that way. And having verifiable access to a person or like your graphic design, Justin, that was specifically made by an artist or by a person, I think there will still be novelty in that, at least for certain people.
Yeah, I agree. And sort of on that, like on that novelty point, right? That's one thing that AI really cannot do right now, and I'm not sure that it ever will be able to. I don't know what the leap would look like from, what we have right now, which are, AIs that are able to like synthesize and collect and gather and organize data very, very well, right? And they can synthesize what's already been done. But creating something new, creating a new idea or a new concept or a new, piece of art or whatever, something that you can't, that doesn't have like a reference point that already exists, right? That's something that is still unique to humans, and I think will be for a very long time, right? So, to your point about having you know losing your job or being out of a job as a podcaster, I'm not sure I agree with that necessarily, right? Because novel ideas, novel concepts, those things are still, I think, unique to us, right? Our agents will be able to help us do the sort of menial tasks, right? And those menial tasks will become very, very complex. um, but uh, but creating brand new things from scratch, that's unique to us still.
Kind
And
of on a related note, like and I think this is one of the superpowers of blockchains, namely like the immutability and transparency aspect is,
mhm.
these days, and it happened very, you can kind of see it coming, and maybe it was there to a lesser extent, but it happened super abruptly with like the latest release of Sora, and now you have AI videos that are like really convincing, like something that just seems kind of absurd, but that my God, it looks so real, or even something that isn't necessarily crazy, but it's like, is that real? Like yesterday or the day before yesterday, the hurricane was hitting Jamaica and Montego Bay. I've been there multiple times, and it was sort of like, wow, I'm really familiar with the place. I hope everything's okay. So I'm kind of looking at some videos, and all of a sudden there's a video of like somebody at their hotel, and they're kind of looking at the pool, and there was a hurricane going on. But then in the video, the idea was like that it was so severe that the ocean had come up, and there were actually sharks in the pool. Now, clearly, that's bullshit,
Yeah.
And but it was like such a well done AI video. So we've hit the point now where people don't know what's real and what's not, and it's only a matter of time before this really impacts our politics. Or
Oh, yeah.
it's so easy to imagine, different state actors, imagine any powerful government, including ours, of course, using this to their advantage somehow. People are not going to know what's real and what's not. But, having the ability to at least, grab a hash of something and post it on chain, and like have some system where this actually, we can verify that this existed at this date and maybe was published by this trusted media source or something like that. That's like a really straightforward use case. It's been around since Bitcoin, the ability, just to post a hash and to timestamp it. But this is like so important now that we've entered I guess you could call it like a epistemological crisis. It's what's true, what's real kind of
Yeah.
thing.
Oh, I think that by the next, like the 2028 election cycle, this is going to be a train wreck. I mean, I think by then it is going to be like to your point, everything will just have to be presumed fake until proven cryptographically otherwise. Because I just like I already think that like we basically have at least two, but maybe more than two, like realities in the United States right now. Like if you just talk to the average person, it's more than two. I'm simplifying. I'm definitely boiling it down too far, but just bear with me. If you go to the average person right now and ask them just about the state of the world, or like, what do you think about this, or what do you think about that? There is like two realities happening simultaneously, and both sides very much believe that what they are experiencing is what is true. And the obvious answer is like the truth is somewhere in the middle. Like there's no, neither political end of our spectrum is like giving you the whole truth either way. But I think that is just going to become so fragmented, especially when you take a video like you were talking about, Kent, and right now most people are using it for like ridiculous stuff. Like I don't know if you guys saw the series of videos where people are making it look like pets were shooting guns off of their doorstep, like outrageous stuff like that. But if you apply that to something that's just a little bit smaller and a little bit more nuanced, and you change that one word that politician said, or the tonality in the way that they said it, and now the whole message changes, I think you'll have politicians and people like that. They will be questioning it. Like, did I say that? I didn't say that, right? Did I? Like it's going to get real weird real fast.
Well, and I think we're even seeing socially people using, artificial content and like art, these like artificial information as like a way to discredit the people that they disagree with, or like even in a like um in a totally dishonest way, right? Like that you see people online calling, people that they disagree with like NPCs as an example, right?
Yeah.
That's another example of that. Or if someone says something that you don't agree with, you can just say, oh well, you're a bot or whatever, right?
Yeah.
So we've already started like basically, sort of planting that seed of like, if I see something that I don't agree with or that I don't like or whatever, I can immediately discredit it, or at least like plant a seed of doubt in the rest of that audience that it's not real, or it's not made by a human, just by essentially like pointing that out, right?
I'm
And
guilty of this.
yeah.
I'm guilty of this. Just the other day, somebody made a tweet thread that was a negative review of the DGen 1, the Ethereum phone, which I have loved so far, by the way. And I replied to it saying, in quotes, ChatGPT, write me a negative review of this thing everyone else loves. I was like, so I am also guilty of this.
Yeah, I mean, and it's hard, right? Like you see, I see this a lot on LinkedIn, which I try not to spend
Oh, why would you do that? Oh, no, go on.
uh
No, sorry.
yeah. But yeah, I see a lot these sort of like long essays that people write, and it's like I always wonder like how much of this was written by ChatGPT, was this, and like I don't know that I really even care, right? If someone has a point that they want to make, and they're using ChatGPT to help them formulate that or articulate it better, I don't think I really care about that. But there's part of me in the back of my mind, right, that I see that and I think like, I immediately sort of discredit it, or I lose interest halfway through if I start thinking like, oh, was this written by an AI or whatever? That's I think a social cultural thing that we are experiencing sort of as a collective, right? As this like backlash to a new technology that seems sort of scary, and that we even, people like us that are pretty ingrained in the space don't fully understand, like the implications of, right, and exactly how it works. And like even the people that build these AIs don't really understand how they work, right? So yeah, I think part of that is just is a social backlash. We will get used to it. That the same thing happened with every major technological leap, and I think we're in one of those right now. I really do think that AI is the next sort of exponential leap in technology, and it just takes time for like our meat brains to like catch up with that, right?
Yeah. Well, unfortunately, we had thousands of years of no change effectively in some of these regards. And now in the last less than 100 years, we just hit the turbo button and, just sped into infinity. Yeah. On the topic of CoinCap, I want to let's get back to what you guys are actually working on. Sorry, but we got really off topic. But no, I love talking about that stuff. On the topic of CoinCap, though, we were talking about the MCP servers that you guys are building. Are there specific servers for specific things? And the reason I ask is I was just speaking in my last episode with Austin Federa of Double Zero, and we were talking about the importance of speed and execution and not having downtime. And we were talking about, or at least I was saying, how when you have agents competing against one another, speed is going to be everything. If my agent can execute faster than yours, I'm going to trade better than you, even if you have, better information to, in from a more macro perspective.
It's like a Flash Boy scenario.
Yes, that's exactly what we were talking about. Yeah, similar to Flash Boys. Are you guys designing different servers around like different types of price data that somebody want? Like maybe they're going to want like meme coins or like categorically, how is it divided, I guess is what I'm trying to ask.
So we have one single server right now, and we have multiple endpoints that are designed around providing different levels, different amounts of data, can provide data at different speeds, right? So we only have like one server right now, right? So I think partially you're going to want your agents are going to want like to be able to get multiple things from one single server, but also will probably be using, different MCP servers or different tools from different providers at the same time, simultaneously, right? Or in sequence to complete a single task. But as an example, right, we have a tool that can deliver like, a block of content or a block of data about an asset, right? That includes like price, volume, a bunch of different data points. Or we have another tool that just returns the price, right? At any given point. So if you're concerned about speed and you really just want to see the price, there's a tool that your agent can pull that tool specifically and get that price like in a tenth of the time that it would take to get the sort of blob of like all of the other data around.
Is that the tool in the Morpheus Discord right now? Because there is a CoinCap integration there. I know I see people use it all the time.
Yes, so that's our V1 of the AI bot that we built. That Discord bot is not connected to our MCP server at the moment.
Got it. Okay.
So yeah, that's something that we're actually actively working on right now. Although there are some challenges with that we're still trying to figure out how to solve exactly. But MCP is still somewhat niche, right? There are a lot of models that don't have support for it yet. And so
what would be the reason for that? Is it because they're not open source?
Not necessarily. I think it's just that they haven't been. I don't want to misspeak, and I actually don't know the answer to that question. So.
You could just do the I made it up thing. I actually won't know the difference. So.
So my understanding is that they just haven't been built and trained to connect with MCP servers in that that very specific protocol, right? Because really that's what MCP is. It's just a communication protocol at the end of the day. So
it would be like if you had a website or something that didn't have the correct hooks for an API. Because it just doesn't have it built into the infrastructure. I see. Okay.
Yeah, it's similar to that, right? So that's kind of what I mean when in that we're still very early in this, is that it is still very niche. The models that can use it can utilize it very, very powerfully, but a lot of them can't. And our bot is currently running a model that doesn't really work with the MCP all that well yet. So but yeah, we should have that updated soon. And then there's a couple other interesting things that we're working on also. So
in terms of actionable steps for people who are listening that maybe can benefit from already having CoinCap Pro, or maybe somebody who doesn't yet have CoinCap Pro, what are some actionable steps our audience can take to kind of check that out?
For starters, if anybody out there has Morpheus tokens and just wants to earn a solid return on that, namely 15%. If you, and this has been the case for a while, and it's still.
I forgot about this. Yes, thank you for bringing this up. I forgot about this. Yeah.
I believe we're the number 2. I was just looking at the Morpheus dashboard. I think we're the number 2 subnet in terms of staked tokens, or even somewhere way right up there. I think the reason is we do offer that APY on Morpheus. So basically, if you and you alluded to this earlier in the podcast, Bo, but if you come to our site pro.coincap.io and you stake your Morpheus tokens, then you start earning a return on that, as well as a stream of CoinCap points, which may in the future be used for something we haven't, frankly, we haven't determined yet, but we really wanted the idea, or we want the ability to reward users for something we could do in the future. But really earning that return, and it really is like in the OG ICO bubble, that term utility token was like thrown around everywhere, and it was used as a way to have an ICO, basically an excuse to have an ICO. Um, there is no CoinCap ICO to clarify, but like, hey, we're gonna have a utility token, and please, buy this thing. And the narrative did work for a while, but it quickly became apparent that there aren't that many utility tokens. But in this sense, we really wanted to embrace the use of Morpheus as a utility token. Take this token, lock it up, and depending on how much you're staking, how much you're locking up with us, you get access to different tiers of our service, along with those CoinCap points and your Morpheus rewards. So we feel like that's like a win-win for anybody that wants to really do that. I mean, just the staking rewards alone might be sufficient sort of incentive to do that, but we really believe in this product that we continue to like refine and improve. We're also working on some deeper sort of AI functionality that's going to ultimately be part of the app itself, and iterating on that. So that would be one thought is like just in terms of your tokens, please check out pro.coincap.io to earn more
Yeah.
potentially.
To build on that, with for the MCP server itself, if you already have a CoinCap Pro account, you can use the MCP server. The probably the quickest and easiest way to use it, to try it out right now, requires Claude Desktop. If you have the Claude Desktop app, you can download a Claude extension file that we built specifically for Claude, and just and run it in Claude, and you can start using the CoinCap MCP immediately. Um, and that's that, I mean, you can get that up and running in 15 seconds. Like anyone could do it. It's very, very simple. And that's the fastest way to use it right now.
All right, this is a good
Although,
video idea. Maybe I'll make a video running Claude Desktop Local, staking my more to the subnet, and then accessing my pro stream.
yeah, I mean, it's pretty impressive. It's pretty awesome, the things that the MCP server that allows Claude to do, right? In terms of just like supercharging analytics of market trends and things like that, right? Even generating real time and like bespoke charts, and like charting views and things like that, right? So I've been, yeah, it's just fun to play with, right? Even
No,
even without,
absolutely.
yeah.
Well, and I just love that you guys are one of the builders that give more utility. I love the fact that more as a protocol is built agnostically, meaning that like people can use it and leverage it however they want. And you guys have found a very practical way of doing that and creating utility early on, and are arguably the first builder to do it, or at least the first builder who isn't like, I mean, yeah, one of them at the very least, if not literally the first. So that's amazing. Lastly, before we get out of here, we've covered a lot of different things, but since this is a Web3 and crypto show, I'm going to ask each of you what there is so much noise out there right now in terms of just opportunities for investments and things like this. Give us some signal. If you're right now like, okay, I got to give some signal to somebody, this is what I would be paying attention to. Where are you guys paying attention?
I have two answers to this. One is just looking at what's happening with respect to the roll up situation on Ethereum. You're kind of having this like Cambrian explosion of roll ups, and of course you have like Base and Arbitrum really eating the lion's share of that right now. It's where a lot of the action is, but like increasingly you're seeing sort of like different roll ups emerge for different functions. There's one coming up. It's not Traction. Lighter. that one, I believe that's going to be designed to be more of like, potentially meeting the scaling needs of, for example, AI bots doing things incredibly fast, high frequency trading, maybe a hyperledger type of vibe. Um, I think the roll up thesis has really been proven out, and then something near and dear, I think, to all of our hearts in the Morpheus space and the DAI space in general is like, privacy, and we're getting to the point where the zero knowledge aspect of roll-ups and just the crypto in general is getting much cheaper. Proving ZK is becoming much cheaper, and it's becoming a lot more doable. One of the most exciting things is I don't think it'll be too much longer, as in a couple more years before Ethereum itself, like the mainnet, has that inbuilt privacy functionality, or maybe it's like selective privacy. This is like a cypherpunk dream to
Yeah.
be getting that tech. So that to me is very cool. The other signal to me, something I've embraced myself over the past 8 to 12 months, is basically the signal you get from just avoiding social media. Um, Kind of along the points of what we were talking about earlier, with like the spam bots on LinkedIn. I mean, you guys have seen it too on crypto Twitter. The spam, not just the spam, the AI bots have made it like almost unusable. There's so
Mhm.
much noise. I have never seen a worse signal to noise in crypto. It's just really bad, and it's so distracting. So what I've done is I just I do want to stay apprised of what's going on. So I listen to podcasts like yours,
Mhm.
Bo, or, like different crypto podcasts or adjacent podcasts. Um, Trying to tap into, what's going on. Or maybe once in a while, every week I'll kind of peruse Twitter or something notable has happened, but just cutting that out completely. Like there's so much noise. And then it's like, wow, you realize like I actually have more original thoughts than I thought I had, but I've been so distracted by everybody telling me how to think and what to invest in and all this stuff. It's just so much bullshit out there, and pushing that away is very liberating. So I would humbly suggest, if anybody's feeling overwhelmed by all that, just take a break from it, or uh, do your own thing for a bit.
That's excellent advice, without a doubt. So advice that I myself should be taking more often. Justin,
Mhm.
any signal on your side?
Yeah, so this is a bit out, maybe a bit out of left field, sort of off topic, but something that I've been sort of really enjoying lately is this digital trading card game on built on Solana called Soulforge. It's a ton of fun.
Soulforge.
Built by, or I think originally created by one of the creators of Magic the Gathering. But it's a super fun on-chain, like basically collectible trading card game that you can play right now. And I know like a couple years ago I was really into the idea um, of like online and like crypto backed like gaming assets and things like that, and this is one of the projects I've found that actually is doing that effectively and has created like a really fun game to play as well. So if anyone hasn't done that and is just looking for a fun way to kill a couple hours, that's a good one.
That's
I
awesome.
second that actually. At the last ETH Denver, Soulforge had a presence there. They had like a half day where they were all set up, and I'm a guy that doesn't game much anymore, but I did like Magic back in the day. Justin, I know you're like a Magic rock star,
Are
but
you? I didn't know
it,
that. I was huge
Yeah,
into Yu-Gi-Oh, so not exactly the same,
oh,
but
okay,
adjacent.
Yep.
yeah, um, yeah. So Soulforge, I believe, was the who is the creator of Magic?
Yeah, it's I think Richard Garfield.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
don't want to say if I'm not exactly correct, but oh yeah, I
Uh,
made that. But yeah.
the Justin Gary, I think, is the guy on Soulforge, and he worked alongside Richard Garfield in those early days. And I think my point is, though, they've really managed to capture some of that magic. It was kind of striking at ETH Denver to see people kind of walking along, and then they'd be like, "Oh, what's this?" And it's like it was sort of like moth to a flame. Like, well, people are digging this, so yeah. If people like that, check it out. It's also cool because they did decide to use Solana, which at the time was certainly the most performant for something like this. So
Hmm.
interesting.
That's awesome. I'm gonna check that out. I actually had not heard of this one, but I pulled their website up. It's soulforgefusion.com. It looks like.
Yep.
So
Yep. And it originally started as a like physical card game a couple years ago, and then
yeah, that's what I was seeing. They have both physical
or
cards and then
yeah,
the NFT version.
Yeah, I guess it was a mobile app first, and then it became sort of a physical card game, and I had played it with a couple friends, and it was a lot of fun, but never really took off. And I think this has being the sort of Web3 iteration of it has a ton of potential. So something fun you can do if you've got a little bit.
Well, I got to give both of you guys a shout out because both of your signal was either legitimate good advice on how to get signal or an actual product that you can go and try today. It wasn't just a ticker, which is really huge. So I still have to say, not financial advice, everyone listening. We are idiots. We don't know what we're talking about. So do your own research. Well, I shouldn't say we. I'm sorry. I am an idiot. I don't know what I'm talking about. Do your own research. But yeah, no, that's awesome. Well, guys, thank you again for hopping on. I really appreciate it. I definitely look forward to having you back in the future to hear about how CoinCap's continuing to evolve. And, down the line here pretty soon, I'm sure we'll have some great stories on agent interactions with the stuff that you guys are building. So looking forward to it.
Yeah.
Thank you, Bo. Really appreciate it.
Of course. Thanks, guys.
It's great to be back on.
I'm trying to free your mind, but I can only show you the door. You're the one that has to walk through it.
You're listening to Brain Power.